Do I have seasons on this show? Welcome to 2016, or at least 1 month into 2016, where you can forget all about the shit that happened last year and hope and pray that games developers won't fall into the same pitfalls that they did in 2015. Question is, how long will it take for the hype train to derail itself? Nah, we should be more optimistic. 2015 wasn't without problems, but in terms of actual game quality, we're riding an upward curve at the moment. I'm sure we'll run into more bullshit political problems, though if Konami keep their mouth shut we might be alright. But a new year brings renewed optimism and faith in the gaming industry's ability to impress all over again. It would only be right if I only considered games for this video if there was a decent chance of them coming out in 2016. Admittedly, it means that we're working up against potential delays and ambiguity with release dates, but I'll go with what I've got at the moment. And it does help if there is a concrete game with a name on the way. While both Sonic and Pokemon will surely celebrate their anniversaries with new games, so far we haven't heard anything specific about that. Hard to get excited about theoretical games. I don't think I've seen one game revitalize a series in the same way that Awakening did for Fire Emblem. In the space of one release, Fire Emblem went from this mildly obscure tactical RPG that only people who became a little too obsessed with Marth and Roy in Smash Bros played, to a new part of Nintendo's bedrock. Fire Emblem Awakening struck an impressive balance that satisfied old fans and was still open enough to be pretty welcoming for new fans. It's an impressive feat, that's for sure. Repeating it again for the next game? Now that's a challenge. Though, frankly, Fire Emblem Fates doesn't need to be the groundbreaking people pleaser that Awakening was. You've already managed to convince a group of people that Fire Emblem is worth their attention, so all Nintendo has to do with Fates is keep the fires burning. It's certainly stoking fans with the removal of some of the game's more questionable features as it makes its way over to the West. Though I gotta say, what they've taken out, it's some creepy shit. Bit annoyed that they've gone down the Pokemon path and made 3 slightly different versions of the same game, but it looks like quite a lot changes from Birthright to Conquest and vice versa. Would I get both? Probably not, but I'm not going to pass it up just because they removed the waifu petting minigame, because that would be really fucking petty. Now you see, when I put the word anticipated in the title of this video, I don't want you thinking that I'm head over the hills excited for every single game on here. Sometimes you look forward to something being released just so you can stand a fair distance back and watch the carnage that unfolds. And rewinding back to June 2015 and one company's showcase at E3, and I'm sure you'll remember the reaction to one game in particular from Nintendo's mostly disappointing digital event. Gonna be honest, I don't remember too many games that were received in the way that Metroid Prime Federation Force was. The fallout from the announcement of Federation Force made sense. No Metroid game for the last 5 years, not even signs that one is being worked on, and what we got instead is this low-resolution, multiplayer-heavy, weird game with very little resemblance to anything Metroid. But maybe we shouldn't be so hasty. The near 25,000 people who've signed the petition to get the game cancelled show how little confidence there is in Federation Force, but I still feel like this game should be allowed to stand on its own merits, as long as it has some. I'll wager that it won't end up as a must-have for the 3DS, so maybe the best case scenario for Nintendo is a semi-decent game in the similar vein to Triforce Heroes last year. But just imagine the uproar if Federation Force turns out to be terrible. A beloved franchise celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, with 2 poor games released by Nintendo last year under big names. Things could get very messy. Might just be the kick up the backside that Nintendo needs. It's hard to generate hype from a standing start. You haven't got an existing series as a springboard, so you've got to get people interested through premise. And while a name like Cuphead doesn't sound particularly interesting, at least not in the same way as, say, Shovel Knight, one peek at its trailer was all I needed. So we have a run-and-gun platformer, basically Contra, Gunstar Heroes, Metal Slug, those kind of games, in the style of a crazy 1930s cartoon. I remember many years ago spending most of an afternoon flicking through YouTube watching the weirdest cartoons that the 1930s had to offer. So I look at Cuphead and think, where the fuck has this been all my life? And the brilliant thing is that the game's aesthetics really help loosen the constraints on things like enemy and level design. It's a game about a guy with a cup for a head who loses a bet with the devil and tries to repay that debt. With a premise and an art style like this, you can do whatever the fuck you want and get away with it. Worth keeping an eye on this one. In my brief hiatus, I decided to catch up on a few of the games that I bought last year, put on the shelf, and immediately forgot about. That's kind of how I approach games nowadays. Get the purchase in and make a pile of games that I'll get around to playing. Eventually. And so, the time I had off let me delve into the Uncharted games, thanks to the HD Nathan Drake remix thing, and it's a pretty solid trio of games. Now all I need is an upcoming release to take advantage of my newfound interest in this series. There we go. Don't really know all that much about Uncharted 4 other than it obviously being the last game with Naughty Dog at the helm. So either everyone dies or ends up happily retired with boatloads of treasure. It's like deciding the plot of a Shakespeare play with a coin toss. It's also supposed to be a lot less linear than the previous titles, which I didn't really have too much of a problem with when playing them, mostly because I was getting pissed off at the enemies going around your cover, but some actual adventuring off the beaten track in this series about grand quests to find treasure, not such a bad idea. Because I haven't followed the series through since the beginning, I don't really have any attachment to it, so I'm not exactly sad that it's coming to an end, but if Uncharted 4 is to be the last, it's better that they wrap it up while they can, instead of releasing half a dozen more games to keep it going. We've got way too much of that nowadays. Way too much. Due to a variety of reasons, mainly my internet being made of breadsticks, I haven't played Team Fortress 2 since late 2014. Though in that period of time, Valve have hardly been keeping the new content flowing. It's kinda like, you want new content? Have some hats! But we want weapons. Have some hats instead and some festive stuff! That's the problem when you start to dominate the market in free-to-play multiplayer cartoony first-person shooters with a heavy focus on working as a team, you begin to slip into a comfort zone. So of course, what both Valve and the world needs is a game to keep Team Fortress 2 on its toes. And it looks like Overwatch is fully prepared to take on this mantle. I'd heard about Overwatch in early 2014, but with a few promo shots and logo, it didn't really grab me as anything other than, oh look, a Blizzard FPS, I can't wait. Then I saw a gameplay trailer, and the cinematic trailer. And at some point while watching these, a light bulb went off in a dark corner of my brain, illuminating the fact that this is kinda sorta like Team Fortress 2, but with more diverse gameplay, and really cool hero people. And did the Grim Reaper just come out of nowhere with 2 shotguns and just annihilate everyone? Overwatch spent the back end of 2015 in closed beta, and what I've heard has been very encouraging. It could well be the game that either replaces Team Fortress 2 or brings the best out of TF2. Either way, I can't play it. Internet's made out of breadsticks, remember? If I learned one thing from Bloodborne other than the fact that I'm not actually all that good at games, it'll be that you can always improve a successful formula. Bloodborne tightened everything up, so taking damage and dealing damage had more feedback, so you felt more in control. So it's only fitting that From Software takes this information and plugs it straight into a new Dark Souls game. Just when you thought you were getting good at games, the dark shadow of Dark Souls 3 blots out the sunlight and plunges the world below into inky blackness. There are harder games out there nowadays, but as a successful series that is going from strength to strength, Dark Souls, and by extension Dark Souls 3, is something that you simply need to experience. Whether or not the third Dark Souls game will offer up enough new features to keep the veterans on their toes is one thing, but if it can replicate or even improve on Bloodborne's world building, we're gonna have a very engaging war of attrition on our hands. Not sure if it'll stop people from rage quitting, but it's worth a shot. Do you remember when people used to joke about The Last Guardian? About how this year was gonna be the year where we hear more about this phantom game that disappeared off the radar in the last 3 years. I remember hearing rumours about it turning up in some capacity at E3 2015, but it's been like that for a while now. Proclaiming that The Last Guardian wasn't to be lost forever was the announcement of last year's E3 for me. Now it just needs to deliver on the bold claims that this game is actually going to be made. Do we know much about The Last Guardian? Not really. I remember a few screenshots from years back, but who knows if those concepts have been retained after all the delays and changes that have plagued its development. It looks like the little boy and his giant eagle dog are solving puzzles primarily, so it'll be closer to Ico than Shadow of the Colossus, but that's fine because Ico was a great game, even if it didn't sell that well. Actually, The Last Guardian might even see an upturn in sales due to the game's notoriety. All publicity is good publicity. So I did have plans at the beginning of 2015 to do a similar video to this, but got caught up with other things, found something else to do, got distracted by something shiny, take your pick. But of the games I was looking forward to last year, I rather optimistically considered Zelda Wii U to be a game that I was anticipating in 2015. I say optimistically because at that time we'd only seen a short trailer and a brief look at the gameplay, we hadn't even got a name yet. And 12 months later, we're in the exact same position. I don't really know what's going on with this game. Legend of Zelda is one of Nintendo's greatest weapons, so you don't need to do an awful lot to generate hype for it. And Nintendo have done very little to get people excited about Zelda Wii U, but if they did more, you know, like a fucking title, there's loads to get really excited about. It's a game that Nintendo should be going all in on. Open world Zelda? Hell yeah. Shooting arrows in slow motion? All I've ever wanted. Filling this huge overworld with things to do? One can only dream. There's more hope behind Zelda Wii U than, say, Federation Force, obviously, but that's because the former looks like it's going to give people what they want. Let's not forget that Zelda is also celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, and with the NX just around the corner, there is a fair amount of pressure on this game to get it right. The ingredients are all there, all we need now is some more info about it. Gaming has a habit of going through trends to fit the rise and fall of certain genres. We've had the eras of space shooters, 2D platformers, 3D platformers, shooter games, and I'd now say we're firmly in the age of crazy big open world games. But absence makes the heart grow fonder, and this might be a personal problem, I find it hard to get the same fix of 3D platformers that used to be such commonplace around the turn of the century. Which is exactly why everyone should be so excited about Yooka-Laylee. Oh man, if everything else on this video turns out to be shit, I won't care too much as long as Yooka-Laylee delivers on what it's offering. This is more than just in the style of Banjo-Kazooie. Yooka-Laylee is going for full-on spiritual successor status, a solution to the withdrawal symptoms brought about by the disappearance of 3D platformers. And with designers and artists plucked straight from Rare's N64 era, including Grant Kirkhope and David Wise working on the soundtrack, everything is in place for Yooka-Laylee to cause a hell of a stir this year. We back, guys, we back so hard. I love how we're at a point in time where someone could look at the space stage of Spore and think, yeah, it's good, but what if we made it much bigger? Elite Dangerous tried something like this last year, wasn't all that interested in the game myself, but it took, I'd say like 5 minutes from the showcase at E3 for No Man's Sky to catapult itself to the top of my list of games that I'd run through brick walls to play. That's just the alternate title for the video. The ambition on display here is staggering. This is space exploration on an absurd scale. Developers Hello Games have said that the game will procedurally generate over 18 quintillion planets, and that's a huge number. Look how big that number is. Or maybe it's this big. Why is there a difference? If they can deliver enough quality and variety to each of these planets, then this has the potential to be one of the best adventure games ever made. Just imagine how much world building you can do on each of these planets while simultaneously linking it back to a huge database with other players. Whether or not this experience will wear thin over the hours is one concern, as is giving enough value to each of these millions of planets, but at the very least, points for ambition. This has been RabbidLuigi, and if a game ends up being disappointing, I'd prefer that it gets there by being overly optimistic than if it was just subpar and boring. It sits a lot better with me if I can just add, "at least you tried" at the end. In any industry, you always need advancements, and while sitting on the same basic formula is good business practice, it's also really fucking tedious. Got a topic that you'd like me to discuss in a countdown? Leave a suggestion in a comment below and head over to my Twitter where I'll be holding a vote to decide the subject of the next countdown based off the best of your submissions. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everybody, hope you liked that. Took a bit of time off at the start of the year just to gather everything together and pretty much to take a break from making videos for a little while. You know, sometimes you just need to switch off for a few weeks. But I'm back now and I've got some huge plans for this year. There's a lot I want to do and only so long to do it. And if you want to keep up to date with what it is I'm planning, Twitter and Facebook are the places to be. Frankly, they always have been.